Well, I'm at one of my all-time favorite places here in Santa Cruz, the Santa Cruz Yacht Harbor. And I'm here because now that we've started this series in the 40 days before Easter on the spiritual practices of Christ, we're going to be talking about fasting and meditation and Bible memorization and service and submission. My hope is that you see all these practices as sails catching the wind of God's grace. This is so important because I used to do these things, Bible memory and service and so on, and I felt like someone in a rowboat, straining against the oars, trying to get somewhere. I saw the spiritual practices as oars in a rowboat. I gotta read the Bible, I gotta pray, I gotta serve in order to get somewhere and in order to get God to bless me. But when I finally understood the way the Bible talks about these spiritual practices, I realized it was more like sails on a sailboat. And when I was reading the Bible and meditating and memorizing scripture and fasting and so on, what I was doing was putting up the sails. Now, the sails were the exact same things, actually, that I'd seen previously as oars in a rowboat, but I saw them differently. They were no longer mere obligation. They were sails through the pages of the Bible and prayer and service. The sails were catching the breeze of God's love and grace, which was propelling me and reinvigorating me and refreshing me as I put up those sails. That is a totally different way of looking at the spiritual practices of the Christian life. And once I started praying and meditating, studying the Bible, memorizing verses as sails to catch the breeze of God's grace, everything changed in my life. I went from feeling burdened to feeling free. Every moment of my life, I started to see God's grace. I thought every breath I breathe is a gift of God's grace. Every leaf on every tree, every blossom, every drop of water in the ocean is all a pure gift of God's grace. Every face I see on every person, that's an object of God's grace. And suddenly I started seeing God's grace on every page of the Bible. If I had time, I could show you hundreds of verses, but just for today, I'll leave you with this. In Ephesians 3, starting in verse 17, Paul prays this for the Ephesian church. He says, "I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to really know this love that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God." He's saying, man, put up your sails and let God's love and grace fill them. And I pray and hope that that is your experience during this Rhythm series. God bless you. I hope you have a great 40 days leading up to Easter.